FaZe Rug just left. Another FaZe member has left the clan. Whoa. FaZe Rug leaving is crazy. Breaking news. Okay, let me tell you, somebody just made $10,000 on Kalshi. Second off, I have been deeply in my 30s interested in this implosion of FaZe Clan. And truly, there's no better word to describe it than implosion. Like, this is probably one of the most dramatic and shocking ends to an org. If you think to where FaZe has been, the lows that they have had to Christmas Day, all their biggest stars leaving, basically at, I would argue, their highest of highs, is surprising. It is surprising. Now, this actually is a situation that is really close to my personal life. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've actually been really stressed out about this FaZe Clan situation. Namely because they owe me $25,000. So who the fuck is going to pay me now? Okay. Now PSL beat FaZe Clan fair and square, and they owe me 25 racks. And that's not just me, by the way. That goes to people who need it. Nick Yingling needs that money because I did not give that guy a Christmas bonus and he's desperate. Okay. So, you know, I don't know who I got to get. I don't know if it's a FaZe Bank situation. I don't know if it's that new guy from DraftKings or who, but I need my money. Okay. I need my money. But anyway, I thought we'd talk about it. MAGA Mail is back. I thought we'd talk about it because it was pretty dramatic. You know, in FaZe Clan, in typical FaZe fashion, everything they do is an announcement. Everything they do is a big deal, and none bigger than the death of FaZe Clan. And just in the last 10 minutes, I did not know this when I started the stream, probably, maybe outside of FaZe Adapt, arguable, maybe bigger than FaZe Adapt, the most influential FaZe member, one of the longest tenured FaZe members, just left. FaZe Rug officially left FaZe Clan. This one hurts. After 13 years, I decided to part ways. Look at this. So we're gonna hold up. I want to cover everything that's happened with FaZe Clan because I think it's interesting. Okay, as somebody who's in the industry, I have basically no insider information. I just have the information that's privy to the public. But with that, you can basically put all the pieces together to figure out how this happened. Now, I will come clean, okay? Journalistic integrity. Jason Lewine did hit me up yesterday, and he said, hey, can I come to your house to give you a Christmas gift for a YouTube video? I said, no, I'm not there. I'm visiting Cutie's family. He reacted with a heart emoji. So I figured I'd, you know, give you a little background, but all the information that I have, that I've compiled here, is stuff that I found out publicly. So, all right, a bit of a return of MAGA Mail here. Let's go through it. Starting with the breaking news, all right, FaZe Rug, after 13 years, has left FaZe Clan. Okay, FaZe Rug is out, which comes off the heels of a mass Christmas exodus. Now, I'm just going to go through these because they all tweeted left at FaZe Clan, all right? You got Ron, Rage, Lacey, Silky, Jason, K-Son, Swag, okay, FaZe Apex, who also left, and probably the most dramatic, the one that I think people resonated with the most, FaZe Adapt leaving. Now, FaZe Adapt leaving, this guy has FaZe, I think, inked on his body. It's in his Twitter bio username. It, you know, has bled FaZe, as he says here, for 14 years, over half his life. And you can see the impact, right? You don't think of Adapt without thinking of FaZe. You don't think of FaZe without thinking of Adapt. Him leaving, okay, you know, 20 million views, 200K likes, was probably the biggest deal of them all. Okay, so the question is, of course, how did this happen? How do you have an org that is literally org of the year imploding? Now, it's not the first time I've ever talked about FaZe being in some trouble. And I'm going to say it right now, obviously, you know, I'm saying death of FaZe. A lot of other people are as well. I don't know if this will be the death of FaZe. FaZe is kind of a cockroach, okay? I really thought with my whole chest that FaZe was going to disappear as an org 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I made a video on Mogul Mail back when I was doing it in May about one of the most pathetic, you know, viral campaign attempts I've ever seen, the Phase 5 campaign or the Phase 1 campaign, whatever they called it, where they had everybody IRL streaming trying to find the new FaZe member. Okay, and this is what it was back in 2022, back when they were a publicly traded company, and they have since rebounded from there. And it's easy now. It's easy to be a hindsight Harry. It's easy now to be like, oh my God, how could these guys have less FaZe? FaZe was doing so well, you know, blah, 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 blah. When these guys were initially signed to FaZe, the FaZe organization got a lot of heat. I don't like saying the clan, so I'm just going to call it the org. But the org faced a lot of heat, all right? Not a lot of people agreed with the signings, the new direction. It was a lot different from what they were known for, right? It was a Call of Duty trick-shotting clan filled with mostly gamers. And in April of 2024 and then May of 2024, they signed I think 7 creators that would form the core of this new content group. And these new creators, okay, names that I'm sure you guys will connect with FaZe, okay, were pretty small creators, but had something in common. They were mostly IRL. They are pretty much all, with zero exceptions, dog shit at gaming, okay? And they were all rising streamers. Now, these are stats I pulled up. This is the Sully Gnome of every single person who was signed to FaZe the year before they joined the org. So if we go through, you can see, the numbers. This is average viewership. They were successful streamers. A lot of them were on the rise, but they were not massive streamers. Okay, we're talking anywhere from 2,000 concurrent viewers to 5,000 concurrent viewers. Okay? But they had a trend line that was going up. And in Adapt's case, the guy literally had never streamed before. All right? Now, fast forward. This is the last 365 days. Okay, this is the last year. Basically, everybody in this org doubled, quadrupled, or 10x'd in viewership. Literally over the course of a couple years, went from people who didn't stream at all who became 10K Andes, or people who were 2 to 5K viewers who are now 20K Andes and at the top of Twitch, the genuine top. Not only that, they won Best Content Organization 2024 and Best Content Org 2025. Okay, so how do you go from that to it all falling to shit? Well, there were signs. Okay, I would argue there were signs. This tweet isn't from Christmas Day. If you've kept up, Max left FaZe early August. All right, early August, Max left FaZe, which not many people knew why. It was confusing at the time, but we'll get back to that, okay? Max leaves FaZe. All right, interesting. We'll get back to that. What was FaZe really, really wildly successful at? Hype. I would argue they maybe didn't create, but are the poster boys of clip farming. Okay, the new era of streaming, where your entire stream is based around farming a few clips that then get millions, if not tens of millions of views online, that then bring a lot more attention to you, your brand, your stream, whatever. All right? They are literally the kings of clip farming. And because of that, their clips have been seen by hundreds of millions of people. The issue is FaZe Clan has had an issue that has plagued them for about the last 15 years. And it is probably their biggest weak point as an organization. They are not good at it. They've been ass at it. It has basically ruined them time and time again. They are bad at making money. Simply put, that is their biggest flaw as an organization. They do not make money. They are all hype with no substance behind it. They do not know how to effectively make money. Okay? I think their motto has been, let's do the craziest shit we can, ask questions later. All right? And I'm talking about the organization. I'm not talking about the individual influencers within it. That is true. The individual influencers within it did get very rich, but the organization never got rich. They built a lot of hype, but what does that hype give you? Okay? It can dupe people into investing, but they basically stretched that line as far as it can go. So you have a lot of hype. People see that hype, so they put money into it. You use that money to make more hype. More people invest more money. They took that all the way to the stock market when they did a merge with B. Riley Principal, and they had a valuation of $1 billion. $1 billion. The day that it was listed, it went down in valuation by over $250 million. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with the ownership, I don't blame you. It's changed a lot. The person who owns the most shares of FaZe now is a guy named Matt Kalish. You probably don't know the name, but you know what he's created because he's the co-founder of DraftKings. How much money did he spend to own half of current FaZe Clan? $11 million. $11 million. Okay, so, it went from the absolute highest highs, as much hype as possible, publicly traded, did a SPAC, was valued at $1 billion. Now $11 million gets you control of the organization. So anyway, that's the new owner of it. So what happened here? Well, FaZe Clan went back to doing what they do best. Building a lot of hype and making zero fucking dollars doing it. And that's just not speculation. That's also the words of Matt Kalish himself, who said the current financial structure of FaZe is unsustainable. According to Matt Kalish, Chief Executive Officer of HardScope, a FaZe investor, He gave the influencers who operated from a multi-million-dollar Los Angeles mansion the option to go independent or sign deals with HardScope. He ended talks last week and plans to continue on without them. So that's basically the short version. If you want the really skinny version, it's that FaZe didn't make enough money. The owner wanted to sign them to a deal which was going to make the org more money and the workers, the streamers, less money. The streamers said no to that deal, and that's where we are now. Okay? Now we're missing a pretty big component of this, which I now want to address, which is, of course, the figurehead of FaZe. Never the owner by terms of capital, but I would say the lead visionary of the org over the last 15 years, basically. We're talking about Brother Banks. Absolutely. Now, if you ask him, Banks will say, I have nothing to do with what's going on at FaZe Clan right now. I left 4 months ago and have moved on with my life. Unfortunate to see, wishing everyone the best. Here to help. Nobody loves FaZe more than me. Okay. So basically, I have nothing to do with FaZe. I am not in FaZe. That's what Banks says. Okay. Now, this actually does line up nicely. Now, there's this clip from this young streamer who explained why he stepped down from FaZe. Now, I won't lie. This is a gross amount of brain rot. The simplistic version is that he did not get along with the talent, and that's why he left. Okay? Here's the brain rot version from this young streamer.
Okay, bro, I'm Team Jakura anyway. For those of you above the age of 30 in my chat, which there are a few of you, Banks allegedly made a comment about Sakura possibly calling her a 6, though he denies this, though if you watch the clip, could lead you to believe that he's lying about denying it. So right now, unfortunately, he is on hood watch from NMS. And although before he would walk into a room and farm aura, now he's farming L's. So yeah, I'm 30 and tapped in. What about it?
All you actually need to know is that Banks did not get along with the talent. And the talent control everything because the talent are the org, right? What is FaZe Clan? It is the talent who are a part of FaZe Clan. So they don't get along. So Banks stepped down. But does he actually? You see, there was an ad, I don't know if you guys remember this, that aired at the Streamer Awards, which actually promoted one of Matt Kalish's businesses. Let me show you the ad real quick.
And the winner for Streamer of the Year is you.
Now, this is a POV ad of you being a successful creator and then promotes HardScope at the end with coming soon. And all it links to is a website called HardScope, which if you go to still, by the way, it would link you to a website that shows you their services and then their creators, which you can see here are all FaZe members. Okay? I guess it's more apt to say former creators. What is HardScope? HardScope was launched, okay, just this month by Matt Kalish, and it markets itself as the operating system for the creator economy, connecting brands and fans with the most influential streamers built to lead culture. The way I understand it, it's basically trying to Disneyfy streaming. You can call it a glorified ad agency, you can call it a management team, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a contract with streamers, a 365 deal, where they'll get a percentage of every single dollar that walks in the door for that streamer in exchange for making that streamer's life a lot better, making them a bigger creator overall, getting them more deers overall, yada, yada, yada. Okay? That's what the idea is. Okay? It's probably a little bit more than an ad agency. It's, maybe more accurately like a management team or whatever. 100, 1,000 of these have popped up in my tenure as a streamer. And this one, okay, makes a lot of sense for the issues that FaZe ownership is trying to change. Because what is their main issue? Their main issue is that they are clearly able to create or at least incubate streamers that lead the culture in some way, that build a lot of hype, that create a lot of fans, but they're not able to capitalize on the financial aspect of that. And we know they're not able to capitalize on the financial aspect of that just based off of the FaZe members themselves leaking how poorly all the ad deals go. It's insane how big of an org FaZe was, and it seemed like the only sponsor they were ever able to get was Four Loko. I think they had an energy drink sponsor. I think they lost it within a month. FaZe Lacey got kicked legitimately for a day for missing a shoot, which I think had a sponsor in it. I think they had a gaming sponsor that fell through because none of the streamers successfully set up the thing to do the sponsor in the first place. Basically, the situation that they had set up just didn't work. It just didn't work. They were not able to do it. So the new system is, hey, we are going to get a little percentage of everything they do. And actually, Matt Kalish, in his Bloomberg article, written by Cecilia, goes on to say, my best guess is they're all good kids and have a lot of people in their ear and are confused. The influencers felt the terms Kalish offered were unfavorable, according to a person with knowledge of the discussion who had not been identified. The talks have been going on for over half a year. Max, who left in August, explained why in a live stream. We have no control. There's no control. It's like we're puppets. At least that's what it felt like. You get what I'm saying? And then he goes on to say, talking about HardScope, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, what was the deal? That's the one question. What was the deal that HardScope, who owned FaZe Clan, was offering to the FaZe members? We know, okay, because it was leaked by Black Boy Max's cousin. So let's just listen in.
Banks was pushed out of FaZe by the FaZe members, right? And they wanted Kalish to run it. Max leaves. So now there's this thing called HardScope that now owns FaZe, which Banks has a part of. So you still part of FaZe. What are you talking about? Niggas is liars, bro. You still are part of FaZe because you own HardScope, nigga. What the fuck?
So that's problem one, right? FaZe, Banks is pushed out because he has interpersonal issues with the talent. But then he is a part of HardScope, which I know to be true because Banks is the one who hit me up initially about that ad for Streamer Awards. And I had no clue what it was. I was just like, I don't do anything with Streamer Awards. I pass them over to Cutie. But he's a part of HardScope in some fashion. I don't know what. I don't know if he owns a percentage of it. I don't know if he is a advisor to it. I don't know if he's an employee of it. I don't know how deep it goes. But Banks, although, he can say, hey, I'm not a part of FaZe, and that be quote unquote true, it's not true to the faith of what that means because he's a part of HardScope, at the very least advising to HardScope, which directly funds FaZe Clan. So it's like, bro, I'm not, it doesn't make sense to say that. I'm not a part of Twitch. I work at Amazon. It doesn't make sense. That's not very honest. Okay. So that's one of the issues I think that the talent had. One of the issues is that their whole deal was having Banks not be a part of leadership because they had interpersonal issues with Banks. And Banks was going to remain apart clearly because of his relationship with Matt Kalish or Matt Kalish's trust in Banks or whatever. And so that's part one. Issue part two.
Bro, you gotta see what I'm saying, chat. Niggas be lying, bro. Niggas is liars. And then they say the same shit to him. We need 20%. They brought back the deal because niggas is not having. I guess niggas is broke. They needed money. So they used the same deal they said we're not doing. But now it's HardScope and not FaZe doing it.
The offer was for 20%. Now, I don't know how encompassing that 20% is. I don't know if that 20% covers all dollars earned. I don't know if it's specifically for Twitch revenue. I don't know if it's for all ad deals. But the ask was 20% of some chunk of revenue from the creators. So that's the offer. Yeah, with no ownership. The problem is that deal would have worked on basically every single creator who just left FaZe in April of 2024. They are now individually 5, 10, 20x as large as creators. Like they are 20x larger than they used to be. So there's just no reason for them to be individually giving up that much percentage when they could be using that money to pour back into themselves to promote their own brand rather than promoting the FaZe brand. And if we're being honest, at this point, they've probably extracted, as much value as they could extract from the FaZe brand. There's not that much left. So the only reason to have stayed in FaZe, which even this reason has not worked, would be loyalty. And when FaZe Rug, FaZe Adapt, FaZe Apex all leave, loyalty won't blind you enough to ignore the numbers. Okay? So that's why it all ended. Now, the perspective of Banks is that these guys, the FaZe guys, are not grateful enough for the growth they had under the FaZe banner, which it is absolutely true. There is no argument. Each and every single one of those guys who left FaZe would say that joining FaZe was the best decision they could have ever made. The growth it had on their career will forever probably be the single largest spike that they will have in their career, but they're also a business. This is not a friendship. They do not owe fealty because the success they saw with the brand. That is just simple business, and they should do what is best for them business-wise. It is insane to say, like, dude, look at where you were, look at where you are. You owe it to us. Sign this dog shit deal. That deal needed to be signed before, the bet was ever made and they grew to the size they are now. Now, there's a lot of outside noise in this as well that I think is mostly unrelated to the actual reason why everyone's leaving. Outside of, obviously, a lot of the talent have interpersonal issues with Banks. Banks said the N-word. Banks is now posting screenshots of him in a conversation with Charlie D'Amelio to prove that if they hooked up, which he's not confirming they hooked up, she was 20. None of this shit actually is pertinent to them leaving. I don't think any of it's relevant. What actually is relevant is that Banks, although says he's leaving, was still a part of the team, and they had interpersonal issues with Banks, which, as far as I can tell, very clearly now, based off all the conversations that are coming out, were not reconcilable. So anyway, that leaves us with where we are now. They went live in what I can only call a last-minute uncomfortable stream where all the members and VTuber Silky were sitting down, and they go, yeah, so we're leaving the 4-letter org. They almost talked about FaZe if it was Voldemort. They're like, we're leaving the 4-letter org. We don't know what's going to happen, but we appreciate you guys. And it's clearly been a very stressful time for them also during the holidays. So it's understandable. But really, there's a bunch of possibilities at this point. Now, I'm going to make a prediction, okay? I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to make a bold prediction at that. Now, a lot of people saw that 20% number and thought it was high. And it is for the size of the creators and what they can do with that 20% if they're set on being a solo creator. So in the example of Black Boy Max, I think Max is going to do a lot better solo than he would have in FaZe because he's able to use all that money that he's going to save not being in FaZe to reinvest into himself and be as big of a creator or a musician or an artist as he wants to be. It seems like the intent of the former FaZe guys is to stay together in some format. I don't think, and it's early, that's going to be very easy to accomplish. I don't think it's going to be very easy to do because facts do remain. They burn through money and now have the same business acumen that FaZe had. You can find this with a simple Google search. Their house is, about as public as 1600 Penn Ave. Their rent for their last house was $70,000 a month. Okay. Their rent alone, bro, is almost breaching $1 million. The amount of staff that they had, the way they operate is, hey, I want to do this shit fucking next week. Can we get that set up? So they're doing rush fees on basically all the productions they ever do. I would not be surprised if the number that they burn through just as the FaZe Clan with their shoots, with their rent, with their staffing would clear $3 to $5 mil a year. Like easy. And it was clearly way more than FaZe was taking in as an organization. Hence the restructure or the restructured deal that they offered. So how are they going to manage that now? They're going to have to figure that aspect out. They're going to have to figure out that aspect where an org won't handle it for them. So they're going to have to figure out interpersonal things like how much does, Jason the Ween now spend in rent versus Silky versus Lacey versus a shoot. In a shoot, how much does each member have to give up? Is it percentage based? Who's collecting this money? What staff counts as group staff? What staff counts as individual staff? Is somebody fielding deals for them? Or are they fielding their own deals individually? Like, these are all issues which over time just kill orgs because it's a very difficult thing to figure out. And it becomes really easy, super easy to sit there as an individual who has their own community, their own audience, to think, why don't I just fucking do this all myself? It would be way easier. I can still collab occasionally with people when I want, but we don't have to have such combined careers to the point where I'm having to make decisions that benefit the org versus benefit me. So I think those are going to be tough questions, which is why they did not come out. I think a lot of people wanted them to come out and be like, guys, we have a new org and it's FaZe, but it's spelled with a P-H-A-S-E instead of F-A-Z-E. And it's going to be fucking awesome. And this is our new logo. I think that's what people wanted. I think it's a lot easier to say than to do. So, I think their friendships with each other is genuine. And I think arguably the most important part at making the content successful. So I think they'll probably try to stick together. They'll probably have a house. I think they'll live together 2 to 3 years. I think 2 to 3 years, they'll probably shutter that. They'll all move on to individual careers. I think at that point, Matt Kalish will see that whatever he's attempting to do with FaZe has lost its spark. He needs the soul back. He's going to throw the book at FaZe Adapt. FaZe Adapt will be the new lead of a future FaZe Clan. And everyone else will be solo artists at that point who occasionally do collabs together. This is my prediction. This is my prediction. This is my Kalshi prediction today. But we'll see. They could also come back and, yeah, they could come back and they could say, hey, we're FaZe Clan now. We're one letter down the alphabet. Sure. And that could be a successful org and it could outdo FaZe and be more popular in 10, 15 years. But I think the reality is FaZe isn't going anywhere because it does not cost a lot to operate. There are many creators who would jump at the opportunity to join. Maybe not, today they'd want to be announced, but in 3 months, 6 months time. They will always be in the zeitgeist because of their esports division. Now, obviously, if you guys don't know, their esports division is separate. It's under separate leadership, separate ownership, and they rent out the name. But it keeps the name in the zeitgeist. FaZe exists as an entity because the FaZe Clan esports team is good and will likely remain good. So phasing up will still be a thing 2 years from now, even if there are zero talent in the FaZe Clan. So anyway, that's it. That's your update. We'll see where the pieces lie. But super interesting shit. Super interesting. And goes to show that over hype, over views, over anything else, the most important thing is sustainability and also taking care of your talent. And I think they focused too hard on one and lost the other. Rug leaving is insane. I mean, I think the reason Rug left, I don't know if they were all presented with the same HardScope deal. I could imagine that being the case, which is why they all left at the same time. So basically they went to Rug and they said, hey, 20% of everything you do, which would be kind of absurd. So that's one reason why. Or the other reason, which is like, it's a sinking ship. It is a sinking ship. Get off the boat. There's no value in staying on the boat anymore. There's no reason to stay except for nostalgia. Anyway, I've long been a hater personally, and I've made this vocal in the past. I have long been a hater of joining an org. I always hated the idea, genuinely hated the idea of somebody conflating my name with another org. Like being, whatever it is, CLG Ludwig, OTV Ludwig, whatever it is. Because every single person who's in an org, whether they're just bleeding the org dry for the money that org's paying them, like I think happens with most 100 Thieves members, or they're genuinely diehard for that org like AMP, they're giving some part of their energy and attention to making the org bigger as opposed to making themselves bigger, which I always hated the idea of. Except for PSL, which is currently in debt for $25,000 to FaZe Clan. Matt Kalish, if you can please hit my lawyer up. I know it's Christmas, but this is a very big concern. Matt Kalish, I need my money. I need my money. Make a DraftKings bet. I'm sure it'll work out. I need my fucking money, Matt.